Daptime, a time dedicated to applying principles that invigorate, motivate, and elevate. Daptime, a time where dope, adventurous people think individually to mutually empower. Full episodes can be found at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website at www.itsdaptime.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Instagram at Daptime21, on Twitter at Dap_time, and Facebook at Daptime. And you can also now find us on YouTube. Thank you for your continued support. We're proud to partner with Harrell Eyewear to bring you this episode, makers of stylish and innovative luxury prescription and non-prescription glasses for all occasions. For more information, visit the partner link on our website, or for direct, go to www.harrelleyewear.com. Harrell Eyewear. Never lose your identity. It's time.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of Daptime. I am AJ, also known as B-Dub, Bobby Westbrook, here alongside my partner in crime, the one and only world-renowned Big Dame. And that groove, well, you know it by now, is being provided by in-house maestro himself, Pete Nice. The three of us are very happy to welcome you back for another episode of Daptime, wherein we hope we make you laugh, learn something, and live your life a little bit better. Well, Daptime, as you know, we are talking about the dope game a little bit more. It's too deep. We couldn't do it in one episode, so we're going to get back into it today. But today, we're going to find out what about the deal is. Who's making out on this thing? So with that, it's now time. Relax your spine. Activate your mind. Let's get it. What up, Big Dame?
What's happening, bro? What it look like?
Moving. Grooving. Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man.
What's happening with you, kid?
Man, I'm good, man. Blessed. Happy to be around for another one. You know how that goes.
I hear the choir. Yes, we are blessed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I keep them.
Yo, man, I cannot even begin to get into this episode without allowing an opportunity to celebrate. It's official, man. We have done 1 year of the show.
Wow.
It's under our belt. Yeah, man. We have done a full 12 months exactly. We've come a long way, man. We weren't even doing YouTube back then, which if you're catching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can keep up when we drop new stuff, and share it. We're all about the sharing. Big Dame, tell me, man, when you think back a year ago, what we started with, where we are now, what are some of the things that stand out to you?
Man, it's funny, man. When I think back to the very first episode we recorded to now, I feel like, the kids that started recording music in the closet and had the makeshift studio, and then they made it, and then they finally got into the real studio and got to actually do their thing. It feels that different. It feels that different, man. Wow. It was like, didn't know what to expect. Didn't know what, we just set out on a journey. And kept putting one foot in front of the other, and learned a lot, and had a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
And man, I'm with you all the way. I think back to one of the things I have to say, and we only hear his voice through his beautiful contribution to music. But were it not for Pete Nice being the real engine behind this from a production standpoint, so special shout out and thank you goes to Pete Nice for all the magic you make happen, brother. The groove is definitely always on time.
Low key, Pete Nice is the glue, man.
Yeah, he's the glue.
He's the glue.
He's the glue, the magic man. But I also think back to one of our early episodes on opportunity. And I remember in that episode talking about you never know when opportunity is going to show up. You don't know how, you can't predict. When you dream it in your mind, it's always everything comes together exactly the way you want it, right? It's the right moment. You've got all the right resources. Circumstances are ideal. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the fact that sometimes opportunity comes and it's not ideal. Mm-hmm. It's not picturesque. And, we were just getting news of COVID this time last year. People were just getting into shutdown mode. But I think our opportunity coincided with life and circumstances in a way that it allowed us to really invest and to grow as much as we have in this year. So not only a shout out, man, but a thank you to you for all the hours and time that you put in to help make this thing happen, man. And I'm looking forward, like you, to doing many more.
Oh man. Likewise.
Bread and butter. So with that, man, I'm gonna throw something at you. You know, we in the last episode we talked a little bit about brother Dak and his new contract. Well, and we exposed this might not be a good business deal. Right? The effects of that might be seen. Now, so how long ago did Pat Mahomes get that contract?
After they won the Super Bowl.
So he got his contract before last season.
Off season, yeah.
So as of today, the Kansas City Chiefs let go 2 of their all-pro tackles.
Really?
They let them go to save money. And I think that could potentially be foreshadowing for the Dallas Cowboys. Now it made me do exactly what we did last week, go back and look, right? So this year, Pat Mahomes will get a combined salary, essentially, of $21 million. He'll get $990,000 for his base salary, essentially. He'll get $2 million of his signing bonus, and he gets a roster hit of $21 million. But and he gets $100,000 for his workouts, being a part of our off-season program. But his direct cap hit, so as long as he's on the roster for the whole year, the Chiefs he accounts for $24.8 million of their overall salary cap, right? Which is reasonable, right? Compared to Dak accounting for $75 million. And if for some reason they let him go, whatever reason, he counts $59 million against the cap.
Okay.
Compared to Dak's $95 million. So I'm bringing us back because, you know, here you're seeing the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, perennial playoff team. They've got one of the future guys. And even with such a, what you would call reasonably responsibly structured contract, you know, they're having to make some hard decisions. They're having to let people go. I'm wondering if the Cowboys, man, are headed for a cliff.
They've been dangling from it for about 20 years. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's just be honest, man. I'm telling you, this is, and I think Jerry Jones has been a great businessman over the years, because you don't get in the position he's been in without making some wise decisions throughout the years, right? He's made his money in the oil fields, which I understand can be a very tough grind, very risky grind.
I wouldn't want to do that job.
Right. So, he's done his thing. But when it comes to football, I think, when I look at Robert Kraft, when I look at the Patriots, I'm sure he has plenty of say-so in the front office, but for the most part, he hires experts to run his team. He got Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is the GM and the head coach. He runs the football team for the most part, the day-to-day. So to me, any wise businessman is smart enough to get an expert in place that works. Y'all share the vision for what you want to see, where you want to see the team go, and then you have the knowledge of how to get there day by day. And you let him do his job. You leave him alone and you let him do his job.
Right.
Jerry can't seem to do that. and I swear, I really think that's been the Cowboys' downfall all this time. When he came in, they won their Super Bowls. I think he had just bought the team, right? Like he hadn't had the team long, and he won the one won 2 with Jimmy Johnson. Then they couldn't get along because Jimmy's a football savant, and any savant does not want anybody meddling in his Kool-Aid, right?
Right.
Jerry can't stay out the huddle. He can't stay out the team meetings. And granted, it's your team. You have the right to do that. But you got an expert, man. You got a guy that's proven. He came in and out the door and got you 2 Super Bowls. You got the team put together. Just take a step back. But he just can't seem to do it. And I think that's been the downfall of this team, man. And even to today, into this situation, he needs to get somebody in place, not his family member, but he needs to get an expert in place, a general manager that knows the game in and out, and then step
So
back and let him do his job.
I like that in theory. I like that because you're right. You want to smart people will tell you. Well, I should say successful people will tell you all the time. They are who they are because of who they have around them. Right.
Right.
It's like I'm not the smartest person in the room.
Right.
I make sure I get a money man to handle my money. I make sure I get an operations person to drive my operations. I'm a visionary. That's what I do.
Right.
That kind of stuff. I think in Jerry's case, he's had opportunities. I mean, you get a Bill Parcells, and that doesn't work out. You won with Barry Switzer, but that Troy Aikman made it clear, like we knew what to do because Jimmy told us, and we were still young enough that we could just drive it ourselves.
Right.
But when you're in the draft room and you got to pick players and you got to think down the road, 3-4 contracts down the road, how do we balance this thing? That's where he struggled. And I tell you, man, Tom Brady was paid the way Tom Brady was paid in New England because Tom Brady was a 7th round pick that, wasn't expected to be there. So it just worked out that he got in a system that allowed him to flourish. It allowed him the time and opportunity because of all the other pieces to give him the best opportunity to win. That defense every year he won was solid. Never not showing up, but he won with Troy Brown in the early days was a punt returner, kickoff gunner, slot receiver, running back.
I think he even played corner a couple games, didn't he?
He did. It's crazy. He did. Picking utility players like that who can help on offense and do multiple things when you have all pros like Lawyer Malloy on defense, anchoring you and making it difficult on other teams. Teddy Bruschi being a rock in the middle.
Big Vince Wilfork.
Vince Wilfork. That defense was stout and stacked. Yeah. So I say all that to say I agree with you that yes, he has to get the right people, but the bigger issue is he has to be willing to let go. He just has to let go of the reins and trust them. And I wonder if part of that is the ego, right? Like I want to be on the podium. I want to make the statement that, I saw this vision. I saw this coming together, and we did. I think he's been trying to do that ever since he let go of Jimmy Johnson. And what concerns me more is that Dak is going to probably see some rough days ahead if they don't win.
He's already set up for it. I was looking at the press conference, and Jimmy has made a point of saying, he said it flat out. He said, Jerry Jones. He said, if there was anyone who I would want to take advantage of me financially, it'd be this guy sitting right here talking about that. That's exactly what he said. So, you paid Tony Romo a lot of money. Was he really worth it? Do you feel like you overpaid for Romo? But you didn't feel the need to publicly say that. Now you feel the need to publicly. So to me, that plants a seed of discontent right there with your quarterback.
It does.
You see what I'm saying? You just now getting over kind of this 2-year negotiation that was going bad anyway. And now you say that? So it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good to me.
It does not, man. It does not. And like I said, seeing the news, I'm even concerned about Kansas City now because you're not getting rid of, nobodies. And you're doing it to save money. So who are you going to pick up off the street at a discount that's going to give you what you got?
You know what's interesting? If you think about it, and I'd have to go through and really do the knowledge, but when you think about it, what team have you ever seen really win consistently with superstar quarterback and a terrible offensive line?
Oh, that's easy. None.
There you go. But how many teams have you seen win with game managers? I'm not even going to say mediocre, game managers, but they have a great defense, solid line, solid run game. A team. I can name several. I can name several. I mean, you look
You
at
and me both. Yeah.
you look at Trent Dilfer. He won one with the Baltimore Ravens. You can look at uh, Tampa
Jim
Bay.
McMahon with the Bears.
Jim McMahon with the Bears. Even Philly. Even though Nick Foles played really well in that Super Bowl, they had their defense was really good and they had a decent running game. I mean, they were a great team. So that's what I don't understand why people haven't figured out yet. We got to build the thing from the inside out. And they insist on
Right.
putting all the value on the quarterback. Now, a great quarterback, he deserves his money, but there are so many other more valuable pieces to the puzzle, I think, and they just get overlooked for whatever reason. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be something that plays out. Hopefully, and I would love to see Dak prove the naysayers wrong and win now. Just because I wouldn't want him to have to. I don't want anybody to have to carry something like that.
Right.
It's not about him being a black man. It's not about him being a cowboy. It's just about I think young men get into that sport hoping to change the life of their family for many generations, and
Mm-hmm.
he's paid a heavy price to do it. I'm sure rehab has been brutal. A
Right.
lot of most professional athletes will tell you rehab is no fun because you're constantly, getting poked and prodded and stretched, to get out and play. So
Mm-hmm.
you're brutalizing your body in ways you're probably going to pay for down the road. And, to do that, yeah, you have the reward and luxury of your family financially is set, but will he be able to enjoy it? And I think if he's not able to win, like you said, it's set up for him to take the fall, because I'm sure Cowboy fans are waiting until they can't re-sign Amari Cooper, till they've got to let go of Zeke, till they're letting go. I mean, right now we did it the other day. That $105 million has to be restructured. You can't afford to have 8 players taking up 98% of the money you have to spend and win.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Real quick, Big Dame, also real live and fresh, Duke not playing. They're not going to make the field of 64. It's an interesting year in that, we're going to see some interesting teams. We talked earlier about March Madness and Cinderellas, but
Mm-hmm.
having Duke be out, Kentucky not out. I mean, they're out. They're not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, Duke had kind of bought into the one and done a little bit. Kentucky bought into the one and done a little bit.
Absolutely.
What's interesting to me is some of these teams that are going to go. Nevada will probably be in. Other teams that are from smaller conferences, they've got players that have been there 2-3 years in the program. And,
Yeah.
you're constantly restocking with freshmen. Do you think that maybe even them being out, teams like that being out, is a sign of more what we've seen and been seeing for a while, that college basketball is in trouble?
I don't think it's really in trouble. I think it's fragile, but I think the reason it's fragile is because you take programs like Kentucky, Duke, all these one and done programs, these programs that have become, because Duke didn't used to be that way, but as these programs have become like one and done factories, they become basically glorified farm teams for the NBA. Basically, is what it's become. Um, these kids, and the reason they're not in this year is because the kids knew it's COVID hit. We're probably not going to have a season. If we have one, we're probably not going to get to play the turn. I'm just going to get ready I'm going to get ready, to go for the draft. And that's it.
One of their star players dropped out early. Hey, I'm going to focus on getting ready for the NBA draft. And could he have made a difference? Probably. But fortunately, it created opportunities for other guys that might not have seen time. But, it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see going forward, because I think coming out of COVID, students are going to want to go and root and cheer, right? So the arenas are going to be full. But will the money be there that the NCAA and the universities have gotten used to from advertisers? Because the fans have been fans of the larger programs. That's been your attraction. And I don't know if the star athlete is saying, hey, I can bypass college. LaMelo Ball in the NBA is having a great season. He
Mm-hmm.
skipped college, went
Mm-hmm.
to China, played. I think he played in Turkey maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, hey, I don't need to go to college to get to where I want to go. And I think college hoop as we knew it in recent years may be shifting. It'd be great to see it return to some of the stuff we saw in the days of old, where you had the Patrick Ewings of the world do 3 years, 2 years, Michael Jordan 3 years. Guys stick around and give you, something to root for, hope for year after year, and watching them grow and evolve. I would love to see that come back, but I don't know that we will.
I definitely don't think it'll come back. I think it's definitely shifting. I don't think the game is in trouble for the simple fact that I think the money will still be in there because there's still college football fans. A Duke fan is still going to be a Duke fan, right? The Cincinnati Bearcats fan is going to be a Bearcats fan. You know what I mean? All these different teams, they have their following. And, even though even with Kentucky, even though they're a one and done type of school now, there's still a large group of people that they were raised up on Kentucky basketball, excuse me. And they raise their kids that way, and their kids raise their kids that way. And so no matter what, okay, well, they're not in it this year, but when they're back next year, people are going to be hollering for them again, and they're going to tune in to watch the games, and they're going to go out to the games as soon as they can. So I think the money is still going to be there. But the game is definitely shifting. I don't think you won't see a top, a Pat Ewing in today's day and age. He would have played 1 year and been gone to get the money. It's too much money to risk an injury.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't blame him. So, I mean, definitely.
Well, that's the thing. It's too much money wherever you get drafted. But really, unless you go lottery, unless you guaranteed you're gonna go lottery, you might as well stick around. Which is why I think the rules are kind of rigged. Like if you go in the draft and you fall to second round, you should be able to go back to college. But the NCAA kind of makes it like, well, you better go play overseas because you're done. So that might be something that can be changed.
But even if you go in the second round, you're gonna make more money than you're making in college.
You will, but
you know what I mean?
You will, but if you have the chance to play yourself into a first round, I think it's worth it. But this is a great point to note. It's conversations like this, Daptimers, that you'll find on Daptime Sports. As we told you in the last episode, we're going to be launching that in a few weeks, where Big Dame and I can dig deeper, go longer, go further on topics like this. But we want to keep it moving for you. Big Dame, going to go to our national nutrition and women's spotlight. You call that out. This is the tandem we want to feature this month in our spotlight moment. I'm gonna throw something out at you. Oprah Winfrey, nutrition and woman to be celebrated. Here's where I'm gonna go with it. One of the things I think we've seen that Oprah did helped with. I think Jamie Lee Curtis was also a person who helped along the way, but Oprah was probably the first woman that I can recall in my lifetime that lived her journey publicly in her image, her physical image, right? Like we saw Oprah at times battling, and she might, look a little out of shape sometimes, and she'd slim down and that kind of thing, kind of like Luther. But also, Oprah talked openly on her show about things she liked. She loves food, loves good food. And I think, she was one of those public figures, very popular with women, who tapped on an issue, publicized it, exposed it, and made it okay to talk about. And that was the image of women, how they're portrayed, how they're objectified, and the real struggle, right? Sometimes as women, they have their children, body changes. She helped with Dr. Oz, bringing him on and helping women understand, sometimes you have to change your diet in order to address things you could do in your 19s and 20s when you're in college, you can't do as you age. And here's why. So she really used her platform to address a myriad of issues. But one of them was how women deal with their image, specifically as it relates to nutrition and health and the kind of issues that women face. So I thought, hey, she's someone to spotlight because she's not a doctor, she's not a nutritionist, but as someone who's been an influencer. And I think she's a spokesperson for Weight Watchers, I think it is.
Yeah, Weight Watchers.
Yeah. So I think, it's funny, man, because I think sometimes we forget the pressure that's put on women with ads and commercials and movies and things like that. The world, society as a whole, puts a lot of pressure on a woman on the way she should look. And a lot of that creates challenges that stay with women that we know and see every day, and they don't get to talk about. So big up to Oprah Winfrey for using her platform in a way to become an influencer for better health and better care of our bodies and feeling better, regardless of, how tall, how skinny, how wide, whatever your disposition, that you have worth and value. Big up.
Big up. Big up.
Big dang. Keep it live. This is our segment. We normally talk about lifestyle, politics, social issues. I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to throw into Keep It Live, Ask Big Dang. We did this a few episodes ago. Want to get your take on a couple of things. Big Dang. First, if you could drive one major legislative item, one agenda item. First part of that question is, what would it be and who would it benefit? On the spot.
One major legislative item, it would be some type of law to force accountability on law enforcement. I'm not sure exactly how it would look, but some kind of way to, right now the way the law is written is kind of wide open. It's subjective. Whatever you feel like was a threat. So Jim Bob, if you felt threatened,
right?
I don't know how you were raised or who you were raised around, but it's just up to your interpretation. While I think you have to allow an individual to his own, to use his own interpretation if he's in the field, I get that, but there has to be accountability. It just has to be. It has to be. It's you can't leave that wide open like that. So it would be something regarding that. And
would you have a range of penalties included there? So, everything from, pulling somebody over on a traffic stop that you never should have stopped, on up to, some of the more heinous things that we've seen in abuses of power.
Yeah, for example, so one of the things that happens is if an officer is found, if he's in a situation where he assaults someone, right? So there's a police brutality issue. There's a complaint. There's so many instances of officers who have had complaints, had these issues pop up, been let go from the office that they work in. They move 2 states away or 2 counties away or whatever the case may be, and they end up getting hired by another jurisdiction. So my thing is, one of the things I think you could do is set up a national database, just like child predators or just like, sex offenders. You put them in a database. You register. You know what I mean? If you've had issues, and it's not that crude. Not that the officer himself has to register, but if you got something on your record, it goes into this database. So now when you go to get a job, you got in trouble in Virginia, but now you're going to North Carolina to get a job. So all they have to do is go in the national database and say, okay, let's look at his background. How hard is that?
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Simple stuff like that can head a lot of stuff off. So if you got a guy the gentleman who killed Mike Brown in Ferguson, he had an issue. He had previous issues and was fired, was let go from other departments and allowed to come over and get a job in Ferguson. And so, you can head a lot of stuff off by doing that. But I think it would definitely be a comprehensive plan you would have to put together to cover everything.
Okay. Going to take you a different direction with the second question. If you could mandate that every child have one activity that you would say mimicked your own childhood, one thing they had to do as part of their growth and development, rite of passage into say, adulthood, and let's say that they get to that freedom at age 16. So before age 16, you have to participate in this. What would that activity be, and why?
Man, I can't say what I really want to say. I'll
Great
go
Mr.
back.
Johnson Spence.
I go. I go back to, because I was having this conversation with somebody just the other day. Something that younger kids, I think, should have to do as a rite of passage. And I don't know that we'll ever get back to that because the world is so crazy. Kids you can't leave them alone no more. But I can remember when I was young. We would take off during the summer when we're out of school. We would take off on our bikes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a wrap. You're not going to see me until I need something to eat. You know what I mean? And then I'll show back up. And then, if you're lucky, or when the street lights came on, you come back around, and that's, other than that, you were gone all day long. No cell phone, no two-way,
Right.
no smoke signals, nobody calling to check on you. If anything, they would call down the block to somebody's house because they knew everybody might be at somebody's house. But I mean, it's just like you had this freedom in my childhood that, and we weren't always in safe places either, but it was just like this. It was just like this freedom where, the parents didn't, it was cool, man. And I could never see myself allowing my child to be gone like that. But I think that's definitely a rite of passage that I would love for youngsters to be able to take advantage of today.
It's funny in thinking about this question. I feel like I would, if it were me, I would want to put like three things as a condition of your being able to call yourself an adult. Have you played kickball? Really competitive kickball on a playground? Have you had the shame of letting one get through your legs?
Right.
Have you had to choose between baby bouncies, medium speed, and roll it fast? Like when you have every because that's that is for everyone.
Right.
Girls and boys get off in kickball. Your ID card also has to show and have a box checked for dodgeball. That would be the second activity on there. You need to have had to deal with your classmates and peers throwing that little rubber ball at you, being out, and know the joy of being on both sides of that. I think that is also one, again, that is non-gender conforming sport, so everybody can play. And then the third thing I would say is ride a bus. You need to know how to get around town on the bus. I think there's, I was talking to an adult, I think he's in his 40s, never rode a bus in his life.
God bless him.
Grew up in a major city, but has never ridden a bus in any city. And I was like, well, how'd you get around? And it was always a parent taking them somewhere, or it was a parent of a friend of theirs picking them up and taking them somewhere, or when their friends maybe got licenses before them taking it. But having to go and stand on a bus stop and deal with that dynamic, because there's a whole social element of waiting on the bus. Then there's getting on the bus and having to deal with the dynamics of that, depending on where you are. And if you ride through the city, you're going to see a little bit of all of it. So I think just in terms of getting a sense of yourself in the world, riding a bus. So when you go to put your application in for your ID card at 16, those boxes have to be checked.
I can ride with that. I think the bus is the most crucial one. Man, that teaches you manhood right there.
Huh? You don't think kickball is a big deal?
Kickball is big because a fight is probably going to break out, and that's one of the things on my list. Is I think you have to have at least one good scrap, preferably 2 or 3. And I'm talking about the kind of scrap, the back in the day scrap, where ain't nobody trying to kill nobody, but yeah, there's no other way we can handle it, but we got to handle it this way. And you go and find out what you made of. You got to do that. You got to find out. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But you got to find that out, So yeah, definitely. You got to have a good scratch.
If it's not for you, you got to find that out.
You got to find out. You don't know till you
Words to
know.
live by.
Yes, sir.
Words to live by.
Yes, sir.
Great opportunity for us to take a segue, give a partner shout out to How We Feeling. Do you feel like it's for you? We appreciate How We Feeling as our partner. Listen, we've told you about them for quite some time. They've been riding with us for a while. You should get on over to their website, www.howwefeeling.com. Get your name on their list. They're about to do some amazing things in about the next 10 days. And I certainly think you want to be a part of it. How We Feeling is a place where people are going to discover and share authentically online about their journeys in life, regardless of what your journey is. So if your journey might be, I say this all the time, if you're thinking about learning how to cook, or you're thinking about changing your diet and you want to shift and get some more nutritional tips, but you know that that's going to be a difficult journey. You want to connect with people who've been down that road. You want to know some of the pitfalls. How We Feel is a place where you can get that, even up to and including your career. Maybe you're thinking about changing jobs, or maybe you want a promotion. What are some of the steps you can take? Learn from people who have nothing invested other than helping other people. People helping people. That's How We Feel it. So everybody's got a story. Just change where you share yours online. Visit www.howwefeeling.com today and start your journey afresh and anew. Big Dame,
yes,
we
sir.
kicked off this fun-ish little interim series before we get into our annual Health 360, which we're going to do later in the spring. But the dope game. The dope game. Last episode, we talked about the users and the user community being very complex, which it was, right? So we talked about the user being a street addict. You get the patients, you got the recreational user, which we didn't delve a lot into that person, which is a whole different dynamic.
Right.
But today we're going to focus on the dealers. What about the dealer?
Dope man.
What are they selling? Big Dame, talk to me. When I throw at you, you think about dope and you think about the dealers. What's the first couple of things that come to mind?
First couple of things come to mind are, I have to ask myself, who is the dealer?
Okay.
So, the dealer, the obvious dealer that comes to everybody's mind is the guy that you see. The guy in the neighborhood. He's probably got a car, nice car. He's probably got some money. He's probably showing his money, clothes, jewelry, that type of thing. That's what you think of when you think the dealer. But I think I go past him to who's his boss, who's his supplier, and then who's his supplier, and then who's his. When you can keep going on and on and on and on. That's a deep rabbit hole, but you can keep going. So when I think about the dealer, I think about who's supplying the need to the people that to the people that have a need. That's basically it. Who's supplying the need? Whoever's supplying the need is the dealer, and it really doesn't matter much what it is.
It's really interesting, man, because I think, so personally, I mean, I think in my family, I think in most families, you've got somebody in your family who's battled or dabbled in either as a recreational user or as somebody who's an addict, and they've dealt with hard, let's distinguish criminalized drugs. One of the things I've loved about this series is that we've uncovered that the reality is dope itself is so much broader than what's criminalized, right? So most of us, we have those people in our family who deal with that side of it. But we also maybe have family members who have been prescribed medication, surgeries, or other issues in life that is super strong and addictive, that has transformational impact for a season of their life, right? So whether it's depression or anxiety or whatever, the dope, the drugs, which are legalized and not criminalized, still have significant life-altering impact. And I see the physicians in those cases often irresponsible and indiscriminate in the way that they present. I mean, right now you have physicians where they're worse than street dealers or just as bad, because their answer to what you come in the office with is, oh yeah, I got what you need. Let me get my pad. I'm gonna write you up a script for 60 days. Bap, right? And they want to fix what you came in for with dope.
I think they're worse. You said just as bad. I think they're worse because they operate under the guise. I know I know who Pookie is. I know what he does. I know who he is. I know his deal. I can deal with that. But Doctor whomever, Doctor Feelgood, he operates under the guise of I'm a professional. I took an oath. You know, he cross gaming, right? I play by a certain I play by a certain set of rules, and you know, so you can trust that I'm not. There's nothing. I'm all above board, right? But then you get in there. I tell you, funny story, man. I had hernia surgery, probably 10 years ago now, 10 or 12 years ago. So I have the surgery. One thing I noticed is they shot me up with so much of the when they put me under. I guess whatever medicine they used a lot of it because you know when you get out of surgery, you know after a few hours, it was an outpatient surgery. So after a few hours, you'll start to feel the pain from where you know because the medicine is wearing off. I didn't feel anything until the next day.
Whoa.
That's how, yeah. So that tells me, wow, y'all used a lot of stuff. But it was funny. So, you know, you go through the surgery, you wake up, they get your vitals, they want to make sure you're good before they let you leave for the day. So I remember everything was fine. I was feeling fine. Everything was successful. And the nurse kept coming in. She came in and she said, okay, we're just going to get you it was a pain pill. I forget which one it was, a Darvocet maybe or something for pain. So I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need anything. Oh no, you should. No, you really needed to. She starts trying to force it on me, right? So I insisted, no, I'm good. You know, well, will you at least take a Tylenol 3? And I'm like, wait a minute. So why are you so bent on me taking this pill? So, and then of course they wrote me the prescription for, I think it was hydrocodone or something, one of those opioids. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need it. Oh no, you have to, you know, you have to take it. You're going to be in so much pain, blah, blah. So I took the prescription. I never got it filled, but I took it. But I say that to say they were trying to meet their quota. You know what I mean? They were trying to meet their quota. That was their job. Their job was not to make sure I was well. Their job was to make sure they increased. They made the upsell. That was their job. And so, to me, when you go into a situation where you're dealing with medical practitioners, and I'm not saying they all are operating like this, but for the most part, that's the game. That's the game. You know, we got you in here. Okay, now we're gonna upsell you every which way we can. Because guess what? Your insurance is paying for most of it, so we can get all that money, and then whatever we can trick you into paying for, we'll get the rest of it from you. Or if you don't pay us, we done got all we need from the insurance company. So when you talk about the dealer, yeah, the deal that's the dealer.
Well, that's the thing that's crazy, and that's what makes it to me the recreational user a really interesting party in the user community because you got recreational users who are getting it on both sides. Like they use the street dealer as a backup.
Right.
In some cases, you got the recreational user who has a physician they can get their script from, and you know, because I'm only using this occasionally. You know, boom, 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 and they go party, go on vacation, do their thing, and come back and they cool. But oh man, I couldn't get with my boy who write the script, so you know, I'm gonna go down to Ronnie's. I'm gonna hit Ronnie up, you know, and get it on the side. But they don't take those chances. But speaking about the dealer, man, I think that you really do have two street level dealers. The challenge is that and we talked about this early on, from a regulatory standpoint, yes, if a physician is found to be indiscriminately giving out prescriptions and they're busted by, you know, the DEA or whoever, most of the time those dudes are going to end up in club fed or some long-term probation and a serious fine. Maybe they lose their license, and that's it. Careers are drastically changed depending on the degree, right? Street level dealer, it's like immediately off the cliff.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where, when you look at things that become really commonplace to talk about, the 94 crime bill, these are guys that if your drug of sort that you dealt in was crack, that could be your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the injustice is very clear and evident. Why do you think it is? And let's go just try to go a little bit beyond the obvious, but why do you think it is that the conscience of America doesn't care to really examine that and find equity beyond simply the obvious?
So, I mean,
if you think it's just the obvious, then that's, that's fair game too.
I mean, I think so. I think this is how the world works, right? I don't think it's black and white. I don't think it is. I think it's kind of haves and have nots. So I think at the end of the day, everybody. So you play chess, right? When you play chess, every move that you make is calculated upon you winning, right? So certain moves that you make, you're going to have to make a decision on: can I stand to lose this piece, or can I not make this move? Mm-hmm. So the way our system is set up is that's how our capitalistic society moves. That's what we do. As we make a move, but from a bigger scale, it's not one piece. It's, can this segment of the population, can we afford to lose them or not? And I think that's what it is, or this community, or these people. So, I think about how the government was involved in dealing, literally, and back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows this is common knowledge. So when you look at that, somebody in a position of authority within the government made a decision that for the greater good, which is not the greater good of the country, because we're funding a war on foreign land in order to further our agenda, which is something completely different from the American people's agenda, the average American people's agenda. But can we afford to hurt this segment of the population? If we hurt this, is the collateral damage worth it? And somebody say, yes, it is. We can stay, you know what I'm saying? We can make that. So I think that's what we have to look at when you're talking about why nobody looks further. I think people don't really take a step back and look at what this game really, really is. It's not Ronnie on the corner selling. He's not really the problem. He is.
right.
But I mean, if
he's an eyesore, but he's not the problem.
But if if you got a house, talk about an eyesore. If you got a tenement house, that's an eyesore to the community, right? Mm-hmm. But you got a slumlord who keeps renting it out and just keeps it on the block. He won't fix nothing. He won't paint nothing. He won't add any shrubberies, anything like that, right? So when do we get the slumlord? When do we say, you know what, we've been trying to get these people, these tenants, to take some initiative and help clean up where they live? We need to get the slumlord because he owns the building. So let's hold him accountable. We don't hold the slumlord accountable. We hold the eyesore accountable. And then to me, yes, Ronnie got to pay for what he's doing, but that doesn't make sense to me. Why not go to the source and take care of the problem for real?
I love that you break it down to have and have nots, and I really do, because I think that you nail it with that. There's, I think when you count the dollars, right? If they're not on dope and they're on the system for welfare at best, in many cases they may not be on the system for welfare, so they might be making whatever money they're making is off the books, it's not being taxed. So why care about them, right? And I think that's kind of the mentality. The nation we see as a you look at countries where there's really this nationalist pride. We're proud of who we are as a country. America talks that nationalist pride, but I think when you get to what fuels it, right, it's a business. America is one major corporation. That's it. and that is driven by a collective of industries that profit on people being addicted to whatever they're selling. So if it's security, well, we sell that we keep you safer than anybody else. So, we're gonna get your money. If it's food, or we're gonna feed you the best food ever, right? But it's about getting your money out of your hands into the government's hands or into the corporation's hands, and giving them more ability to control who your elected officials are, so that they can keep the agenda and the legislation the way that it favors them, right? Keep going back. You go back to a little bit, and I don't like to give this guy any more airtime than necessary, but you go back to 45. I always point to the first 5 things that the Senate did, legislative things they did right after he was sworn in. The first 5 things that they did all were around repealing the things that were done under Obama's presidency related to money. So banking regulation, repealed. SEC and investment regulations, repealed. All of those things that were done to protect from the fall that we had in 2008. And you say, well, why is that important? Well, the security was put in place to prevent the average citizen who, hey, I just got my house. I'm working hard to pay the mortgage I got, right? I don't want to lose it because something I was sold isn't insured enough to bail me out. And so now I lose my job, economy turns, I don't have any resources to save my home 8 months into a downturn, and now people are knocking at my door. I want to prevent the companies from being able to do that again. Why is it that the Senate goes and who was elected to protect those people takes those protections away, right? It's because America's a business, and it's it's a major corporation run for the interest of its chief shareholders. No matter if I own a share of stock, the Carl Icahns of the world, the guy that can control the board, has the biggest block of stock, makes the rules. My little one share has to follow along. But here's the other side of that. So what is the appeal to people? It is get you a share of stock, though. Right? Don't catch yourself out there without a share of stock. And to me, that is the part of the dope game that the street level dealer and the street level user don't get to participate in. Right? The physician that's made his millions. Okay, you take my license, I can't practice anymore, probably is going to live a less than luxurious life, but will survive. They take your corner, lock you up in jail, they could take your whole life. Right? Now you working for 35 cents a day, making t-shirts being sold for $17 in Walmart.
Yeah. I think what's key about that, man, is realizing the position that you play. The first part is to be honest with yourself and recognize it's a game. It literally is a game. It just is. And I think a lot of people don't want to admit that to themselves. They don't want to really let that sink in, that this is a game. This is all a game. A lot of what you've been told and taught throughout your life, once you get old enough to absorb it for yourself, you'll realize, man, I've been lied to a lot by people that wasn't even lying to me. They were telling me their truth, but it was a lie. You know what I mean? You'll find yourself in that position. Once you realize it's a game, you got to be honest with yourself about what piece you are, and you can change. Even the pawn can become a king, right? So a queen, excuse me. And the queen can make every move on the board. So you can go from rags to riches in essence. You have to recognize and say, I'm a pawn right now. You can't be out here a pawn with big wheels. Oh,
taking penitentiary chances.
Taking penitentiary chances. The pawn makes one move at a time. One move. You can't go all the way across the board. You a pawn. So it's like, but that's what I see. That's what happens a lot of time with the Ronnies and these guys out on the corner is you're a pawn right now. You have to just face that fact. But I'm not gonna face that fact because I want to be somebody. And I get that. So now I'm going for it. Right? I'm making a rook move, but I'm a pawn. I'm making a knight move, but I'm a pawn. So I'm leaving myself wide open to get clipped. And eventually you're gonna get clipped. So I think once you're honest with yourself about what you are, then you can make real moves to get yourself, to advance yourself to higher pieces. You know what I mean?
Somebody might ask the question, why do we want to have this conversation? Why is this conversation important? And I think it's important. You said something earlier, you think that the physician who's a dealer is worse than the street dealer. And I kind of agree with you on that because I think there's a passage in the Bible that says, if a person steals because they're hungry, right, you would have compassion on them, right?
Yeah.
I think when you have I heard a story of a guy recently. Actually, I heard him tell his story, and he said when he got on the street, the reason he got into the drug game, he was released from, I think it was juvenile hall at 20 or 21, whatever it was. He got back on the street. He turned to the dope game because the community had shifted to that. The culture that he was in, that he knew as home, right? His surroundings. That's what people that were in the dope game, right? And so, you got to survive, right? He didn't go. He went in at 14, so he hadn't learned a skill per se. So you come home and what's around you it influences you. And he said all he saw was everybody responding to the drug dealer. Like people wanted what the drug dealer's like, so he got into doing it that way. I think that there are a lot of stories of people that may not even be, like that. Like, they're kids who are part of families that sell dope, sell weed, whatever. And I'm not saying we have to, have a kumbaya moment for them. But again, looking at the system and saying, well, the physician who is trying to force you to take, pain medicine, and you're saying, I don't need that. And they're like, no, you need this, right? They're writing you the script or they're putting it in your hands before you leave the office. So they're just as bad and worse in many cases because they're going to school and getting an education to learn how to treat you, right? We've been celebrating nutrition and adjacent to that, or part of that is health, obviously, right? This month. Their job is to figure out what's wrong with you. But I think they too have been conditioned by upstream in the dealer system. Yeah. Well, I know that you could spend hours and hours and hours and maybe see less patients, which means less money, but you can also prescribe this dope. Now, I know they came in because they have headaches, but the side effects of this might have them with something, they got a leg twitch, their eyes blink, whatever, they lose use of one arm, but they won't have headaches anymore, right? But prescribe this. That only happens in 40% of the cases. Huh? The doctors are supposed to ask that question. Well, why? Why am I going to send them out worse than they came in? No.
Right.
But you don't have that integrity anymore. Right. Because everybody's in it for the money.
Right. I think that's, to what you were saying about if somebody asked why we decided to talk about this, I think that's why it's important to understand that it is a game. It is truly a game. It's funny. You were talking about the guy getting out and his community had turned into what it had turned into. So he followed. I can remember, and this was years ago, it was an old lady that she lived in this neighborhood. It was a rough neighborhood, but I knew her and, we were talking one day and she was telling me how, 40 years, she'd been there for 40 years and it used to be such a nice neighborhood and, the whole, the story. Used to be such a great neighborhood and it's just gone, it's just terrible. This was probably 15 years ago, maybe 20. So the neighborhood was ravaged by crack and all kind of illegal drugs and all kind of activity and stuff, right? So make a long story short, that neighborhood was like that for years. It was bad like that for years. I was back out there maybe 5 years later, right? After the last time I had that conversation with the elderly woman. They torn down all the houses, a lot of vacant houses and row houses and stuff like that. They had torn them all down, had nice new development up there. And this particular avenue was known. It was known. So they had built it back up. And I'm telling you, when I rode through there, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I couldn't believe it was the same place, bro. Regular police presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
As because we went to somebody's house out there, but regular police presence. I mean, it looked safe. It felt safe. I had never been out on that street and it felt safe ever in my life, ever. It never felt
Mm-hmm.
safe. Anything could have happened, literally.
Yeah.
So what tripped me out about the whole situation was I thought back to how that block used to look, right? And I noticed that I would never. Everybody knew what was going on that block. I mean, you could have ran down on that block and made your quota for the year. You know what I mean? If you was a cop, but you never saw police over there. You never saw cops over there, right? So then I start asking myself, why don't they ever come over? Because again, this elderly woman lives here. Her husband has passed. Her and her husband lived there for years. There are good tax-paying citizens that live here. Why are they not being protected? Why? But it's easier to let the property value continue to run down, and then somebody else can come in, buy it up for pennies on the dollar, and then you have this nice new development, which I saw years later.
Right.
And I would probably guarantee that the people that benefited from that development were probably piped in with the dealer network somewhere along the line, right? So I think it's important. It's really important to remember that it is a game because we're just not playing it, right?
Right.
So I'm not telling anybody go get no dope and sell no dope, but I'm saying
drive your property value down.
Yeah, but recognize the game though. Recognize the game.
I appreciate that because it also highlights something we talked about a year ago when we were starting this. We talked a lot about people getting involved in their local politics, and so that's the other reason to talking about this topic. If drugs are an issue in your community and you're dealing with the street side of things, one of the ways you get involved is, visit your city council meetings. Find out who the influencers are and hold them accountable. Your city council people, aldermen, whatever the structure is in your city, and become an influencer yourself. If they're not doing it, find a way to create a voice to get the movement you want. Because if you make enough noise, squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? And so it's really important to do that. However, for those in your family, when people tell you, hey, I've been prescribed, something for my anxiety, or I've been prescribed something because I've been battling depression, or I've been prescribed something for the pain after this knee surgery, or whatever your family deals with, pay attention. Recognize that because of a medical condition, you have a family member who is now in regular contact with a dealer. Don't just, we give them a nice name as physicians. Yes, they are physicians. They've gone to school, got an education, but that is a dealer, right? Once you put those kinds of drugs, and so pay attention. Like, we have to be involved and present and participate in ensuring the health of those that we love to keep them from being addicted, right? Because once a person becomes addicted, that's a whole different set of issues. And I think the area that has not been addressed quite as well as we'd like it to be, but we'll talk about in the next episode, is treatment. Because that's the other side of the dope game. There are people who are exploiting that for profit, but there are services that are available, and we want to definitely deal with that as well. So, Big Dame, this has been a good one. I think we should definitely pivot right here. Daptimers, if you've been listening for any time, we love celebrating all of our partners, and definitely among them is Diatsium. Samira Jacobs and her mother, Sabumi, started this line of bath and beauty products, really. All organic, all natural made. No synthetic oils, no chemicals, just natural products and natural ingredients in their products, and a whole lot of love. But what makes these different, you probably have been in your Target and your Walmart and you've seen bath bombs. Samira's put a creative buzz on this. So you might get bath bombs that look like cupcakes, cookies, or malts. She's got really, really amazing sugar scrubs. Lots of fun. Everything on their website, less than $10. So support this young entrepreneur in growing her company and her vision, as well as get yourself some really cool products that will make bath time for your children or for you that much more fun and enjoyable. Visit their website, www.diatsium.com, 2R1. Big Dame, great moment for DAP DNA. Can't wait to hear what you got for us. What you got?
Welcome to the principal's office. you're probably used to the principal's office being associated with trouble. But this office is a little different. In this office, we examine life's principles that can hopefully move us to a higher elevation and vibration. So without further ado, today's principal's office principle is: evil works only prosper in confusion. Evil works only prosper in confusion. I talked about that block that I used to see, used to be around years and years and years and years ago, and how bad it was, and then how all of a sudden, years later, it had turned into this great, beautiful development with plenty of police presence, and so that lets me know that the plan was in effect years before it actually happened. You know what I mean? With this principle right here, evil works only prospers in confusion. The evil works that were being done on that block, they were being done amidst people that were confused. There were people there that did not know that a game was being played. They did not know they were on a chessboard. They did not know what piece they were. Henceforth, they did not know which moves they could make or not make. You see what I'm saying? So it's a total mentality of confusion. We feel like we're in control. We feel like we got it figured out. 1 + 1 looks like it equals 2. But if you don't take that step back and get a clearer vision of the board, not just your life, but the whole chessboard, then you're confused. You're confused. Mm-hmm. And within that confusion, evil works are able to prosper. They're able to come in, they're able to work, they're able to form, weapons are able to form, and things are able to happen that are not going to be positive for you, you and yours. So it's very important as we move through that we're mindful of the fact that we are in this thing called life. We are playing this game called life. Whether you want to call yourself playing it or not, it's you on the chessboard. So it would behoove you to be mindful, be aware, and educate yourself, and keep an open mind so that you can enjoy everything that life has for you. So remember, evil works only prosper in confusion.
Nice. Great one, Big Damn. In fact, that's your cue, Daptimers. When you see things that don't look orderly, that's when you need to start being that squeaky wheel. Big Dame, thank you for that nugget, and as always for the conversation. Pete Nice, thank you for dropping the groove on time as always. But the conversation wouldn't mean as much without you, the Daptime audience, listening and paying attention, tuning in and weighing in. Big Dame telling you at the outset, we are now on YouTube. You can find us on Daptime TV. Search and get all of our episodes there. In the coming weeks, you'll also be able to buy merch there, as well as at the Dap Shop, so you'll be able to access stuff that we've got. We will certainly be available on social media platforms as always, so you can catch us on Instagram at Daptime21, on YouTube, or not on YouTube, but on Twitter at Dap_time, or on Facebook at Daptime. But wherever you do it, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Get about 10 people coming with you, because we're trying to grow this thing and make a movement. Listen, we'll leave you as we always do. When you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, remember, there is your competition. We out.